Hey everyone, Eric here. In this video, we're checking out the Season of the Witch from Swampwitch pedals. At its heart, the Season of the Witch is a delay pedal, but on top of that, we have an LFO section that lets us choose to control both the feedback and the delay to make a whole bunch of crazy noise, and it gives you a lot of flexibility in the pedal. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm using this Eve from Agape Guitars, Tele style. We're going into the Season of the Witch and then into the front of my Boss Katana, which is then going out to my interface. If we look at the pedal right here, we have two sides. We have the left side and then the right side. I kind of like to think of this as two separate entities a little bit. We're gonna get to the right side later in the video, but for right now, we're gonna make sure that these toggles are off because that takes this right side out of the equation and we can kind of focus on our delay controls. It's very traditional delay. We have blend, which is wet dry again. We have delay, which is our delay speed, and then we have feedback. If we turn that blend all the way down, we're not gonna get any delay signal at all. As we turn that blend up, we're gonna introduce more delay. And then up at the top of the blend control, we're getting pretty much only wet signal now. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back down to like 50%. And now we're gonna go to the delay control. As I said before, this is the delay speed. If we turn it down, we get faster delay times. As we turn it up, we get longer delay times. Even right here at 50% on the delay control, we're already getting a pretty long delay time, but we can still push it to be a longer delay, and what's going to happen is it's actually going to continually introduce more noise or like lo-fi-ness into our signal. Beside the delay control, we have the feedback control. At minimum, we're gonna get less repeats. And as we turn that feedback control up, we're gonna get more repeat. And then one thing to note is that inside the Season of the Witch, if you take the back off of it, there are two trim pots, one marked Chaos, and that kind of lets you fine tune how much feedback maximum you get. So what I did was I actually increased it a little bit to get that kind of on the cusp of self-oscillation that you really get when you max out the feedback control right here. In addition to the feedback control and all the other delay controls, we have a boost circuit, which is a really cool sounding boost. It just gives you a drive to the front of the circuit, and I can turn it all the way down to get no boost. And actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn the blend down, so we're only getting boost now. So we've gone over the traditional delay controls, but as I mentioned in the beginning, we have that LFO that we can introduce into controlling the delay or the feedback. And we can do that with the toggle switches below each control. So under delay, we have a toggle switch. In the left position, it is off, meaning if we want to control delay time, we have to turn the delay control. If we want to control the feedback, we have to turn the feedback control to whatever setting we want. When we turn either toggle on, that relieves the delay of working. So right now, since the left toggle of the delay is on, I'm not going to be able to control my delay time. And same with the feedback. Right now, since the toggle is in the left position, I can control the feedback with this knob, but once I turn it over into the right position, in the on position, the feedback control no longer works, and we now control both, in this specific instance, the delay and the feedback with this LFO section right here. We have 4 controls for the LFO as well as a tap tempo. We have rate, depth, offset, and wave. The rate control lets you adjust the speed of the LFO. So let's go ahead and turn the feedback off. So we just have a static feedback, and our delay time is controlled with the LFO. So if we turn the rate all the way down, we're going to get a pretty static LFO. And I should mention that the LED indicator in the middle of the LFO section lets you know kind of the speed, the tempo, and the wave shape of the LFO. As we turn the rate up, we're going to get a faster LFO. Now we're going to move on to the depth control, which is kind of similar to, let's say, a chorus depth or a vibrato depth. If we turn the depth control down, our delay control is going to vary ever so slightly. As we turn the depth up, it's going to start to waver farther and farther, and at the top we're going to waver from like extremes. So let's go ahead and hear that. We're going to start with the depth at 0, and then we're going to go up. Now we're going to move to the offset control, and this kind of determines where on the spectrum of the travel we're going to sit that modulation. If we turn the depth down a little bit to make it a little bit more contained, now we're going to take that offset and we can move the whole thing left or right to get an even crazier sound. So we're going to start with the offset at minimum. We're going to go up from there. To round out the LFO section, we have a wave shape toggle that gives us 8 different shapes of LFO. So traditionally, you're gonna hear a sine wave. Here in a second, I'm gonna show you a really cool trick that I found with the square wave, which is very stark. And then in addition to that, we also have the tap tempo right here on the right. If we want to, we can tap in the tempo of the LFO. So as I tap, it's gonna speed up or slow down relative to what I tap in. So now me and Otis here are going to talk to you about expression control. As you'll see on the top of the Season of the Witch, we have an expression/control voltage CV jack. That means we can control the LFO with either an expression pedal or control voltage. We're just gonna go over expression control in this video. And you can use any expression pedal with the Season of the Witch. It has to be a TRS cable though, a tip ring sleeve, a stereo cable. Right now we've got the expression slider from Old Blood Noise Endeavors plugged in. And what this does is it lets us control the travel of the LFO. So right now we have our delay on. So our delay is being controlled by the LFO. And we can kind of think of our offset and our depth as being the heel down and then the toe down position. So if we turn our expression all the way heel down, that's gonna kind of be our floor, like that's gonna be the offset. And if we turn it all the way up, what our toe down position will be is our depth. Our heel down is at minimum and then our depth is at maximum. So we're getting the widest travel that we can inside the LFO. This is what that sounds like. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it on maximum travel, and then we're gonna go ahead and engage the feedback, and our in phase, out of phase toggle really makes itself apparent in this mode specifically. So right now we're in phase, which means our shorter delay times are not gonna have as much feedback, and then as we push that delay time further, we're gonna get more feedback. And now, if I flip that toggle to out of phase, what happens is the opposite. Our longer delay times have less feedback, and then when we shorten the delay times, then we get more feedback. So now I want to share a really cool setting that I found using the square wave of the LFO modulation, only controlling the delay time. So we have the feedback off. We have it on square wave, which is 3 right here. And what I did was I fine-tuned the offset and the depth to kind of act as a pitch modulation ceiling, so I can hit exactly, like, I think it's a 5th harmony. It produces a really cool sound. And by itself, it sounds really cool. But then I wanted to go further. So then what I did was I put a reverb in front of the Season of the Witch with a ton of reverb going in, have the Season of the Witch modulate those notes. Then we go into a delay from Electric Love, just a standard delay, smoothing out the edges of what's coming out of the pedal. And then we hit another reverb, which is the Ancient Echoes from Wonderful Audio Technology. And that gives it just an incredible amount of space, and all together it sounds super magical and kind of like a movie soundtrack. So now we have my Fender standard jazz bass plugged into the Season of the Witch. Same amp, same settings. The Season of the Witch can give you a really cool, like, chorusy modulation sound. So let's go ahead and take the LFO out of control. Out of control, bro. So now we just have standard delay controls. I want to see how this sounds in kind of like a more, like a shorter slapback delay. So that sounds really cool. That was the delay almost as short as it can go, and the feedback pretty much maxed out. So we're getting like that cusp of self-oscillation. So it kind of sounds like you're in like a metal room or something. So what I'm gonna do now is I have the delay controlled by the LFO, and what I wanted to see was how it sounded when I have a very short or very small amount of depth, and then a very high amount of offset at a very fast rate. Let's hear how that sounds. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel, or if you're looking for more demo videos, go through the backlog here on the channel. I have a ton of demo videos. If you have friends who are also into guitar stuff like you and I, please send this video to them if you think they'd like a crazy delay pedal like the Season of the Witch. I also have a Patreon page. I want to send a huge thank you to all my supporters over there. I have a link in the description. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're taking care of yourself, because you're number one. Anyway, I hope you're doing well. I'll see you in the next video.